Here with us on the set is Real Clear Politics reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns. Thanks for joining us, Caitlin.
Thank you.
We will start with the Dems. Bernie Sanders, according to Real Clear Politics, looking at the poll, looks like Sanders will be winning in New Hampshire by about 20 points ahead of Hillary Clinton. But does that mean that this is his to lose? Or could it slip away from him?
I think it is his to lose at this point, and the Clinton campaign is setting very low expectations. Remember, New Hampshire has a very, redemptive quality for the Clintons. Bill Clinton in 1992 got second place there and launched the comeback kid narrative. Hillary Clinton won New Hampshire in 2008 after losing Iowa. This time, it's a very different story. Sanders is well positioned geographically. He's from a neighboring state or represents a neighboring state, but also his philosophy and approach has been well received in the state of New Hampshire. So this is a tough road for her to go down. But she's setting very low expectations. Kind of opening herself up for that, and then looking towards South Carolina as a place where she can actually win.
But we keep hearing that after New Hampshire, starting in South Carolina, Hillary Clinton is just going to be on a roll and she's just going to start picking up all these delegates. But she barely won in Iowa.
Right.
If she loses in New Hampshire, could that affect that potential momentum?
I think it could. As you know, it's all about shaping the narrative, shaping what the story is. And if there are any doubts raised about your future, the rest of your candidacy down the line, that presents some challenges. So South Carolina a few weeks ago was considered an easy win for Hillary Clinton. She has built a big coalition there, has really courted the African American community there, which is a key constituency in a primary, and she has really been working that state. But Sanders is starting to make inroads as well, racking up a few endorsements coming down the line. And so I think that South Carolina will be really a battle between the two, especially if Sanders wins New Hampshire.
So turning to the Republicans now in New Hampshire, Ted Cruz is trailing Donald Trump by double digits. But Ted Cruz is coming off this win in this previous Iowa. So he's got a lot of momentum, right? What does he need to do, though, to turn that momentum into a possible upset?
Well, it's interesting to see how much confidence that Ted Cruz has. Yesterday, he was railing against Trump, really moving off that Iowa win. Ted Cruz doesn't have to win New Hampshire. He's better positioned in states like South Carolina and those southern states that vote on March 1st. But if he can have a surprise showing, even second place in New Hampshire, I think that would be considered a success for him.
Well, who does he resonate with in New Hampshire? Because in Iowa, he clearly was going after the evangelical Christians. Who is he targeting there?
It's such a great question, because New Hampshire is usually considered, where the more mainstream Republicans are favored. But actually, there is an activist conservative base there that does turn out in primaries. Remember, Pat Buchanan won in 1996. That was kind of a surprise. He was more of the Donald Trump model, tapping into that populist base. But there's also room for conservatives to do well. Really, at this point, Marco Rubio, Chris Christie, Jeb Bush, John Kasich, they're all vying for at least that second place spot. So you can guarantee over the next several days, this is going to be a real, fight to the finish.
So let's talk about that. Marco Rubio had a sort of a win, a third place win. So he's got some momentum. But let's talk about Christie, Kasich, Bush. We were talking to Major Garrett earlier, and he basically said this contest will be make or break for them. Do you agree?
Absolutely. They have all staked their campaigns on New Hampshire, Christie, Bush, and Kasich. If they don't place at least in that top tier, it's very hard for them to make a case to continue on. And what was significant about Rubio's third place finish, which, third place is not first, but what he was able to do was say, look, I'm the person that can consolidate the more mainstream Republican lane. I can consolidate conservatives. I can consolidate moderates. He's making that pitch that I'm your guy going forward. And so Christie and Kasich and Bush all have to compete against that. And as we've seen, Chris Christie has really gone hard after Rubio and will continue to do so in the coming days.
Nancy Cortez told us earlier that most of the decisions are made in the last week.
Yes.
And we saw in Iowa how Rubio got that big boost because a CBS News poll showed that late deciders, he got 28% of that vote. Could that help him in New Hampshire? And is the establishment throwing money at him to support him to try to have an upset.
Well, he's already raised $2 million since Iowa. I think we'll continue to see his fundraising numbers tick up, especially if he does well in New Hampshire. But it really is an important battle in that regard, because New Hampshire will really help winnow the field. And people do make up their minds right when they go into that voting booth. I talked to so many voters in Iowa who said they'll make up their minds during the caucus. And in New Hampshire, it's always the case that a big chunk of the electorate makes up their minds in the last days. And they also, New Hampshire also prides itself on, not being the rubber stamp for Iowa, kind of going a different way. The establishment figures there like to say that New Hampshire is more likely to pick presidents and Iowa pick corn. So we'll see if that pans out this time.
Well, I have another prediction.
What is that?
Just that it will probably be another long night
Yes.
covering the primary in New Hampshire. Caitlin Huey-Burns from Real Clear Politics. Thanks a lot, Caitlin.
Thank you.